So just a few logistics. Our webinar is being recorded as it always is. So we'll be sharing the recording early in the December, sorry, needed to change that in the December bookmark, which will be out soon. You can also access the recording and the PDF slides on the online affiliate network. So anytime you'd like to access those slides and the recordings for the entire year of 2024 are available on that OAN. Okay, so today's agenda, we've got some exciting things happening today. We're going to talk about family engagement and specifically the family workshops because we know that how important they are, but we also know that sometimes they're a little tricky. Sometimes it's tricky to get folks to come sometimes, and we want ideas from our fellow affiliates on what to do, how they're doing it. And sometimes those inspirations from our colleagues are just what we need to reinvigorate our own efforts. So we're going to talk about what we know about family engagement. I think we all know the same things. I'm going to introduce 10 strategies to help us maybe think about family engagement in another way. You might have tried all of these and you might still say, Rebecca, we still have questions, and that's okay. And then we're going to hear from three of our amazing affiliates and learn about what they're doing in their home states. I'll also have time for question and answers, and then program team will be staying on after today's webinar. If you have any questions that you wanted to ask offline, you can do that as well. So I'll kick us off by talking about the why of family engagement. And I think we all know this why. But just to kind of remind us and to steep us in this, and this is just the very sliver of tip of the iceberg when it comes to family engagement. We know that when families are involved, our children are succeeding. We know that almost 90% of children's time is spent out of the educational setting, out of school, out of their, daycare. They're spending a tremendous amount of time with their families, and their families kind of hold the key to their success. Family engagement is associated with higher school and higher attendance in the educational setting. It helps change social emotional outcomes. So child to child relationships, child to adult relationships, academic performance of our kiddos is often higher when families are involved. We know that regardless of where children and families are socioeconomically, it doesn't discriminate. So it doesn't just mean that the rich kids with family engagement are succeeding more than the children from middle incomes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate. Family engagement matters in every setting with any demographic, any socioeconomic neighborhood, and everything in between. And of course, everybody knows this, but I always feel like it's great to just steep ourselves in like the why. Why are we doing this? So when I took a look at, we had so many affiliates complete our affiliate checkout survey. So thank you once again if you were one of those affiliates who do it. If not, we'd love for you to do it in 2025 when we send it out in April. So just a reminder that will come out in April. As I looked at the data, which we do often at Raising a Reader, we use the data to help make decisions. Over 60% of affiliates who completed the survey last year are providing some type of in-person parent workshop or event. That's a lot of affiliates. That's great. And I know over 30% of our affiliates are providing some type of virtual family workshop or some type of virtual event. Now, many of these affiliates could be doing both, so I won't venture to say 90% of affiliates who completed the check-in survey are doing one or the other. They could be doing both. So that's a lot of affiliates. It's a lot of you who are doing this work, and there's some that aren't or that might not think that they're doing it, but they really are. When we asked affiliates to, what are your observations when it comes to the impact of this programming on families? You can see the numbers. I won't read all of them, but almost 100% for all of these that are coordinators, you are observing family time spent reading together is increasing. Children's social emotional learning is increasing. Parent knowledge, that caregiver knowledge of shared reading techniques, and their confidence. And that's what we really want to see. Now, how that's done is really up to you as the affiliate. Now, you might have funders to report to and they want it done in a certain way. But we'll talk today about, like, what Raising Readers saying about making these connections to families meaningful in a way that's suitable for your community. And then, this is some impact on families across the country. These are some anecdotes of what we heard directly from our families and our implementers. One pre-K teacher said, "My families attend the workshops and I've seen a love for books grow among families over the year." Or, "I asked my parents to share pictures of the families reading their books together." A lot of our programs are super successful doing that. "I had one parent who was so excited to share how her family was reading together because of the program." One family attended the workshop so much they loved the activities, they wanted additional materials for their home daycare that they had in their home. So we just know that when families are able to attend, when they're able to be engaged, they're really seeing the benefit of sharing books, or seeing the benefit of the techniques. And yet, it's not easy. And yet, what comes to mind for you? And I'd love for, let's fill up the chat with some responses, or I could even do a whiteboard if we wanted. What comes to mind when you think about connecting with families, whether it's a workshop, whether it's an event? What comes to mind for you? And you can just use the chat and throw some things in there that comes. I might call on you to elaborate, but what comes to mind? Bonding. It's great. Thank you for getting us kicked off with that. Convenience, right? Timing, creating a sense of community, timing of the event to maximize participation. Yeah, creating a sense of community. These are great. Anything else that comes to mind? Caring connections, fun, food, and friends. Absolutely. Connecting with families, making it engaging. I think it's definitely when we've done them, when I've attended them, attendance, right? Attendance. Good, bad, hard, easy, all of those, attendance, partnership. These are great words, and thank you to everyone who's putting these in there. It's not easy. And we hear from a lot of affiliates really super successful stories, and we also hear, like, it's hard. This is the grueling part of this. It's not the kids loving the books, or the rotation because the kids are so excited, but sometimes it is, how do we capture families? And so I'll kick us off before we hear from our colleagues. Rethinking the workshops, rethinking this model, rethinking, putting ourselves in this box that this is what it has to be, right? Because I really want us to think about, do I need to have a workshop, or do I need to have a meaningful connection that's not a workshop, but that I might be reaching more families more effectively in different ways? And so I kind of challenge us to think about what we are doing, what we can do, and maybe some out-of-the-box thinking. So if we rethink family workshops, I want you to really think of these as family connections. Family workshops are great, and that is part of our core model, and we have seen the research that has shown when Raising Reader and family workshops are together, that we are seeing children's early literacy skills grow. We are seeing family habits grow and thrive. But we know that's not always possible to have these formal workshops. So how can we still provide families with the same level of information and empowerment and connection that could also still be a workshop, but could also be some different things? So that's where I think family connections come in. How can I meaningfully connect with my family? So that might be celebrations, events, maybe nudging, maybe reminders, bite-sized reminders. Maybe it's as simple as information sharing. Some of you have confided in me, we don't do this workshop model right now, Rebecca. We're providing information, but your evaluations, we're still seeing the family growth. One-on-one interactions, maybe virtual events, holiday celebrations, you're piggybacking. There's so many ways that we can connect with families and make sure that they're still getting that support that they need from us. So the goal is, like I just mentioned, meaningfully connecting with the caregivers, supporting the development of their shared reading routines and learning routines, helping families actualize their role as their child's most influential teacher, and then increasing that confidence for our families, whether it's in shared learning routines, whether it's an increase in confidence to be their child's biggest advocate, or gosh, they're increasing confidence that they have everything it takes to help their child learn and grow and thrive. That's really the goal of our family connections. So let's talk about some strategies, and then we're going to hear from 3 affiliates. So I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit quickly. So, like the title said, it was 10 strategies, and I came up with the title before I came up with the strategies. So I will say 10 sounded really good to me. So, number one, focus on families. Sometimes you have to do a listening tour. You have to talk to families or talk to your sites about what's most meaningful for your families, for your community, and what's if you have multiple sites over different towns or neighborhoods, what's going to work in one neighborhood or town might not work in the other. Or from site to site, it might differ. So I say we have 3,000 sites across the country. No two sites implement Raising Reader in the exact same way. Everyone is different, and it's really important to know, to kind of maybe step back and reflect. What is the culture of my community? What's important to them? What is meaningful? What drives their passion? What drives their attendance to things? So maybe focusing on topics and areas that are most important to the families. So maybe having events that focus on learning priorities. Some families really want to know, what are we going to learn this year? What are we going to do? How their children can be successful. So this might be academic success, social emotional success. Importance to families might be, how can I help support learning at home? It might be social, and that's great. They might use coming to an event as their social outlet, especially for some of those families who don't have a lot of social outlets. They might rever celebrations. So they might rever, community parties or block parties, or we've seen the fashion show example, or we've seen, they really feel it's important for their child to shine, or for them to see certain things. Maybe it's not in this educational setting. Maybe it's somewhere else in the community. Maybe they're valuing their faith-based organizations or the community center. Maybe it's cultural, and I don't mean cultural as in ethnicity, but maybe, the culture and the fabric of your community. In my community, it's the caring and sharing parade. That's the Saturday after Halloween. Every year, the community comes out for that caring and sharing parade. I might not see these people at any other time during the year, but other than that parade. So, okay, how can I leverage that to get information to families? How can I leverage maybe the social media for that to help families understand or get reading tips out to families, or information out? So thinking about that. For this particular program, I've shared this before, but this is Buffalo Public Schools, and their families, they get almost 100% attendance at a lot of their events, but they're simple. This was a simple reading picnic they had, and children were given a book that they got to keep for this event, and families, they just brought out blankets. There was no food offered, and families were okay. They were encouraged to bring their little ones. So a simple doesn't when I say these events, they don't have to cost a lot of money. They don't have to require a lot of time. But I personally was able to go to so many different families and talk to them with one-on-one interactions through this event at the school. Getting the word out. So be consistent with how you get the word out, but differentiate how it's done. So, child drives the process. So some of you have infant and toddler programs that are nonverbal, that are not communicating yet. So child drives the process might not be the way for them. But if your kids are communicating, when children want to do something, they will, by all goodness, they will get their families to do it. And my most recent is a fundraiser that my son had for school today. It's a run-a-thon. And they showed him all the prizes that he could win, and he wanted to win this dang hat. But to win this dang hat, well, it was a backpack too. We had to raise $600. We have the hat, we raised $600. He wanted to do it. We did it. So when children drive the process, when they go home, mom, dad, abuela, tia, brother, sister, whomever their guardians are, we have to go to this because I'm going to be part of it. We're going to get this. We're going to learn that. That's always the most helpful. Child created invitations. We've had some sites, even my pre-K and kindergarten kids at their sites make phone calls. One of my schools in Baltimore had the kiddos make phone calls. Hi, mom, dad. This is Rebecca. I'm calling you because I'm inviting you to our art show. And at our art show, we're going to do a read aloud and you're going to see all the art I created. Verbal language. It was so great. I know this is not what all sites can do, but these are ideas. The personal invitations, the digital announcements, having the visuals at the site. So making it multiple modalities, but also consistent. So I can consistently know that events are going to be on my school district's app and I'm going to get the notification. But I also know that, my child might come home with a sticker on them made with an Avery label or a flyer or on the social media page. So getting the word out, because a lot of families say, I just didn't know about that activity. Maybe even thinking ahead and providing the calendars. It might not be for the year, but maybe it's for the quarter, or maybe it's for, ahead of time. Here's what's happening in November, but also looking ahead. We've got things in December and January that we're really excited about. So families can see what they're going to be interested in. Oh, well, I can't go to the Winter Wonderland dance, but I can go to STEAM night because I'm not going to be working that night. Integrate events and activities. So families are so busy. We know that. They have a lot of responsibilities. We all have a lot of responsibilities. But maybe prioritizing the events and activities that are of high interest to families and integrating the shared reading, the raising a reader concepts there. So, the event might be aimed at strengthening connections and developing closer relationships. So here's two examples. This is an art show. So kids made art works of art. The kids were kind of highlighted in this event, but integrated into it was bringing everyone together for this mini assembly, talking about the art show, but also talking about how reading helps strengthen brain connections. And so you're layering things in high interest because I want to go see what my kid's been working on. Child's driving the process, but I'm also getting information here. And then of course we have our tried and true fashion shows, or anything where a light's being shown on our kiddos. This could work for infant and toddlers too. We've had a lot of infant and toddler artwork that has been put up at the centers, in the family child care centers, and the families are going to see them. They're taking pictures with the little ones and their art. I mean, I'm like dabbing the kids' hands in the art and like making something. Like that's as simple as some of those have been. Creating leadership opportunities. So we know we have some families who are eager to volunteer. We have a beautiful program called the Parent Ambassadors in Massachusetts, where they're really just putting those caregivers at the forefront, advice seeking from those families, advice seeking from the caregivers, tap into their assets. They might be beautiful at creating wonderful events or just getting the word out, because we know that there are always some key family members that sometimes drive the whole site, sometimes drive the whole neighborhood, for better or worse. Drive us crazy, sometimes it's okay. They're there and we need to tap into them to help us. Reducing information overload. So really, I really want to encourage you to think about the level of text you're sending home. And so your newsletters or your information should be kind of broken up a little bit, making sure there's white space, thinking about bite-sized media. How can I provide succinct information in these formats where my families are going to understand? It's in the language that they speak and that their home languages are in. So you might implement some kind of tiered communication system and create a plan. So whether it's text messages that we know and that research has shown providing information by texting is helpful, or through maybe you have an app like Class Dojo or Remind or Tadpoles. So thinking about the type of information, how long it is, the white space, the languages that it's provided in as well. Building community partners. So maybe partnerships with the local community. Schools can leverage the resources. So if I'm having an event and it's a health and community fair, and I'm going to have the local grocery store, and I'm going to have some social services and the library, and oh, that family's having trouble with maybe accessing food. I'm going to have multiple partners there so that it's almost like a one-stop shop for the families that I can get what I need. My kids need vaccinations. Okay, great. The health department's going to be there, or there's the mobile Colgate mobile, something like that. Just being able to provide multiple means of solutions for the families. This could also be as simple as providing food. I mean, these are things we know. We provide food. You're providing a solution for families. I have food, I have daycare, I can bring my whole family. I'm not afraid to bring my 9-month-old that's kind of colicky right now. Like everybody can come. This is an everyone activity. Removing the language and cultural barriers. So, translation tools, maybe bilingual staff. Also, creating that welcoming environment is so important. And a lot of our families just politely stand on the corner and send our kids in. They don't go up to the school steps. They don't kind of walk their children in. Thinking about the experiences that our families might have had with the educational system and a lot of the inequities there. And that can really prevent that barrier. They're not comfortable going into the school. So how can we make them comfortable? Providing things in their language, maybe going that extra mile to do those home visits or meeting them on that corner. We've had some of our coordinators go to the bus stops and, we're waiting with our kids at the bus stop and providing information there and giving these small entrees into building the trusting relationships. Once the families are in the door, we want to see them. We want to see multiple languages in the sites. We want to see where they can say, oh, this feels like home. This feels like somewhere that I feel welcome because maybe I see pictures. Maybe you're having pictures of families up on your walls. Like I said, languages, books that reflect the families that you're serving. Meeting families where they are technologically. I know that most people have smartphones. I totally get that. So there's a lot of data that says, most adults in our country have smartphone or access to the smartphone. That doesn't always mean we use it to the best, to the max. And so I think sometimes it's really critical for families to be able to access the technology we're providing. So you might have a session on using technology or computers or, our school district came up with an app, and it's fine if you kind of work to figure it out. So I can definitely see them saying, hey, we're going to do a 10-minute session on using this app. Again, small, not we're going to have a 2-hour session, an hour session, but this is how we can help you access this information. And of course, celebrating family involvement. So our kids love to get certificates, but guess what? We like certificates too as a grown-ups and families. So acknowledge family contributions. Maybe there's awards or certificates. I think in training a long time ago, we presented like a family tree, and every family had a branch, and you could do a picture of the family, and they got a leaf on the branch for every event they came to, and that drove it. Our families love getting certificates. They can put on their refrigerator. They can celebrate their family accomplishments together. So just recognizing those families, that can really motivate them to become engaged in those activities because you're saying, you know what? Thank you so much for coming. We're recognizing you as, a rock star reading family, make your own theme there. But that recognition does go a long way for our kiddos. So very quickly, those were my top 10. I would love to hear from you all, but I also want to make sure we have time for our 3 affiliates that are here today to talk a little bit with us. So the first person I have up is Angela. Angela Sawyer is an early literacy coordinator at the Martin Pitt Partnership for Children. And she's going to share a little bit about what they do. Then we'll hear from Deb Berry, and then we'll hear from Laura from Talbot County Schools. So Angela, hi, welcome.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Yeah?
You're good.
Yay. Okay. That's always everybody's nightmare, right? You press the button and you start talking and no one can hear you. Yeah. So I had no idea what you were going to say, Rebecca, but basically everything you said is what we're doing, right? So, I don't want to say we abandoned the workshop format because it is still really important, and I like to give those when I can, but we've found our community right now, that's too much at one time. So I love that you said bite size because that's kind of what we're doing, right? It's like a mini fun size candy bar, not the whole candy bar. So we do that in a bunch of ways, and I apologize, you guys. I'm kind of all over the place. I do have notes to try to like stay on track. And I have some pictures up too that Rebecca lovingly placed in the slides. So I'll talk a little bit about the pictures in case you're a visual person. Um, at my agency, we're a partnership for children. We cover two counties. One is urban-ish, and the other is very rural, very spread out. Even the county seat is really small, and it's very difficult to get buy-in in that county, particularly for me and my coworker who both reside and work out of our more urban office. So, for the first several years that I had facilities in our secondary county, I was just building relationships with our site directors, our teachers that were in the programs, kind of just laying the foundation for trust. And honestly, that took a really long time. So now I feel like after being in the program and working with these people, some of them for 10 years, they know me, they trust me. So if I say, let's do an event, they're like, okay. But year one, year two, they were very reticent to host an event at their site or to come, like to speak it up for us to get parents to come. So we had a really long time kind of building the relationships with the folks in that county. So I'm happy to say now we have a lot more buy-in from the implementers, which is helpful for us because they're really the ones that have the FaceTime with the parents. So what we've kind of done, even before COVID for us, the attendance was kind of starting to dip in terms of having large scale events. Um, we have this year we have more sites than we've ever had, and it's an impossibility staff wise for us to do an event at every single site. We don't have enough hours in the day to be able to do that. So back in the olden days we would have three big events at the library, invite all of our participating classrooms and centers, and kind of just cross our fingers, like maybe 25-30% will come. And we were thinking like we're killing it. If 20% came, we're like, this is amazing. In those days we were serving about 18 to 22 classrooms at about six or seven sites. This year we have, oh my gosh, math, almost 60 classrooms at across 19 sites. So a large scale event is like time consuming for planning and prep. And then if we're only getting about five families that show up to that event, we're like, we just felt like there's better ways to spend our time. So what we've learned over the past several years is to hook in exactly what Rebecca said. We're piggybacking on events that centers and agencies are having. So we serve a large Head Start community. So every year I make best friends with the family advocates. That's the title that they have where we live. I don't know if they're called the same thing where you guys are. But they plan and implement family engagement activities for their sites. So I become like their best friend. I'm like, hey, what's going this year? What's on the schedule? What can I come to that you've already got scheduled? So it kind of takes the pressure off of me and our implementers for creating this whole big thing because the families are already going to be there. So at those events, I typically set up a table, much like the pictures that you guys are looking at. Um, I become one of the stops or one of the agencies that is represented. So to the families, they're like, well, of course you're here because you're part of this program. And I'm like, absolutely. So in the beginning of the school year, um, Head Start usually does what they call a health fair. It's kind of the assessment appointment for the family. So they talk about um, where the child is at in terms of well child visits, dental health. They do a food program at our Head Start. It's called PEAS, PEAS, and it's tied into child health initiatives like diet and exercise, even for kids under 5. So that's a relatively new thing that's being implemented at our Head Start. So the families are, they've got a lot of like paperwork stuff involved in that process. So the families come, and they're usually there between 30 minutes to an hour as they rotate through each of the stations. So I figured out really quick that the kids start to get bored because that's a long time for a little kid. So a lot of times I'll have stickers, tattoos, a coloring sheet. I'll have something they can do with me while we're still in eye shot of the parents. Sometimes we just sit and read. I usually take books with me. If we're lucky enough to have books to give away, then I can say, "Oh, you pick out a book you want to read with me. We'll read it together," and they get to take it home. Sometimes the money's not there for that, so I try to give them something. The little black blobs on the table, I don't know if you guys can see them. They're spider rings from Oriental Trading. So, instead of, I'm one of the ladies that's like, don't give candy because they get enough candy trick or treating, that kind of thing. So during October, when I do events, I usually have some sort of Halloween thing. So a tattoo, a sticker, a spider ring, or whatever. So something they can play with, mess with, take home with them that they can say, Miss Angela gave me this. And then a bookmark, um, a half sheet flyer, something that has reading tips, addresses of the library, um, ways to read to toddlers, maybe 3 or 4 tips, just like 1, 2, 3 things on the flyer, hand it to the parent and be like, thanks for letting me hang out with your kid today. So we've really shifted to a lot of this type of event where we're folded into what the center is already doing, the site that we serve. So this year already, we've done the Head Start Health Fair. We've done school open houses. If a pre-K center is having an open house, then we're there. A lot of that has been helpful in terms of getting the family agreements filled out before the school year even starts. I'm like, you're going to want to do this program. Fill this out for me. So we get that up front. Um, Another effective thing we've done for the past few years, I like to call them pop-ups in the parking lot. So we will like, stand up like a little card table, same kind of as the picture. Again, sticker, tattoo, book, something to give to the child while I really quickly throw at the parents. Hey, my name is Angela. I do Raising Reader. I get to read with your kid. I'm not a scary lady. And by the way, do you guys read at bedtime? Or, do you have trouble making dinner while your kid is freaking out? Have you thought of putting on some music and dancing around? Just some kind of random early literacy or help you get through the day as a parent kind of tip. And that has really been the the majority of how we've done our events of late. So the picture that you're looking at right now is an event that we started doing about 8 years ago with our local library. This is the main branch of our downtown library. It's got a ginormous, beautiful programming area, and the children's department staff is really wonderful. They partner with us on this event in the winter. So we do it in February on purpose because there's not a lot of stuff going on for kids and families in February. Sometimes weather's dicey in February where I live, but thankfully, I better knock on a bunch of wood, but for the past 8 years, with the exception of COVID, we've had the event on the day it was supposed to be on, and there hasn't been weather that has closed it or stopped it. So, this event we like to call Read to Love, Love to Read, and it's specifically geared for 2 and under. So we invite people from the community. We also invite our younger Raising Reader classrooms and tell them, this is an event just for you guys. So we do, we set up this big, enormous room with lots of different learning stations. We do a brief little story time with the families, like some finger plays and like a quick little board book. And then we let them go. We're like, just follow your child. So if we've got a crawler, if we've got like a toddler or a walker, they're going to go to the area they're interested in. So just follow them. And we have either one of my agency's staff members or the library staff at each of those stations. And so we kind of talk them through, we model extension of language. If the child picks up a red ball, we're like, wow, you like the red one. And so sometimes that'll start a conversation. A lot of times parents will come with questions for us. Right out of the gate, they're like, okay, well, they can't hold a spoon. Should I be worried? So we get to kind of talk through like typical development. It's not just a literacy event, but we pull them in by saying, this is a story time. It's going to be fun for your kids. So these are different pictures of some of the centers that we have. There's like behind the scenes, we call it touch and feel, but it's like a tactile sensory section, which is the picture. Well, it's on my left. Yeah, that one. Yeah, Rebecca, yeah, that one. We have sensory bottles. We've got a bubble machine that goes. Sometimes we have to turn it off because it gets the floor wet. And so we have to let the floor dry for a few minutes before we turn it back on. But cubes and touch and feel books and things that make noise and any sort of tactile auditory. I mean, obviously it's toddlers, they're going to stick stuff in their mouth, but we're not like hoping for that. So that's really the only sense we're trying to skirt. And then the picture on the right is the math building, if you will, engineering kind of. So there's lots of stackable materials, some sorting type of toys, and the kids really kind of intuit what they're going to do with the toy, which a lot of times the parents then go, wow, I didn't know they knew how to do this. And so we can kind of talk from there about activities they can do at home with their child that will help build these skills as well. Um, so that's just two of the ways that we've kind of bridged the gap for like not sitting through a whole hour workshop. I have a ton more to talk about, but I'm gonna wrap it up because there's other people. But but yeah, so that's some of the stuff we've been up to.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Angela. I wrote down pop-ups in the parking lot, read to love,
Yeah,
love to read. So I love these ideas. They're just fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much. I really
yeah,
appreciate
you're
your
welcome.
expertise here. Awesome. So now we're going to be joined by Deb with the Lakes Country Services Cooperative in Minnesota, and Deb's going to share some with us. And if you haven't seen the onesie, the Raising Reader onesie behind Deb, you got to look at it. I love that every time I talk to her and I see that. Hi, Deb.
Okay. Hi there. Um, so I'm going to talk a little bit today about just a few things that we do as far as family engagement goes. And I want to preface that with I am in rural Minnesota, where it's nice and cold and snowy today. So winter has hit, yucky poo. We live out in west central Minnesota, and we are piloting a program in Brandon, Evansville, which is my hometown, where we are working for 5 years with Raising a Reader to see the impact on the families in our community, which is made up of probably 2 to 3 communities, totaling maybe 1,200 people in total that live there. So we are small and rural, and we have children this year in our birth classes, all the way up to second grade that are doing Raising a Reader. And when I say birth classes, our public schools in Minnesota have a program called Early Childhood Family Education. And it's 50 years old this year. It's been going for that long. What that is the families actually come into the public school with their infants, newborns, toddlers, pre-K kids, and we have classes together. Some of them are targeted just for infants, toddlers. Others are targeted for the preschool age or a mixed age sometimes. And so those classes meet usually during the day and in the evening so that the entire family can come. So in that, we are already doing a portion of family engagement because it's fit into our classes. But besides that, because we're doing the program from 0 all the way up through 2nd grade, what Rebecca is showing you right now is a idea that one of our implementer teachers came up with this year. And we actually had bingo for books as our kickoff for all of those families. I don't remember if I said, but we've got 155 kids that are in this. So we had about, I think, around 100 people that came to this event. We had snacks and they came and played bingo. And then all of the staff in our school donated books, gently used books. And so they were able, when they won bingo, to go and pick out a book. But the kind of unique thing was we didn't use numbered bingo cards. I actually made up a brain development bingo card. And so you can see those on the left-hand side there of the slide if you're looking at it. So for example, when I would say first 6 years, and they would find that while they were finding it, then I would say to them, you know, it's really important what you guys are doing with your moms and dads in the first 6 years, because that's when your brain is developing the most. And so all those little factoids we threw into that. Well, I was all set to just do the word card, but what you see on the far left is where one of my teachers came back and said, wait just a second, those little kids can't do words. So I went and found some pictures. Some of them did not come through real well, so I had to describe them. And so when I would say, for example, books are the window to the world, then I would say to those kids, okay, if you have pictures on your card, look for the window that's open with the book in front of it. And then they could find those in order to play the bingo too. But you can see here in the pictures, some of our teachers and the kids picking out books. You can see one little girl who came with her grandpa, which happens very often in our families. If mom and dad can't make it, somebody else is coming. It was just really well received, and the children were all smiles. And we made sure by the end of the evening that every child went home with a book, whether they had bingoed or not. So that was our kickoff this year. And here's a slide that shows you a few more of that evening and how fun and wonderful it was. I'm going to talk a little bit too about what Rebecca's showing you here for our birthday bash, because this was our kickoff in March last year. We are going to do this again this year. We did a family engagement workshop where they came to the gym, and every one of our implementing teachers on a different grade level chose a book from one of their bags at that level, and they came up with an activity to do. So when the families came, we fed them supper, of course, because we find that's really important, like you had said, to, you know, get them there, pull in the whole eating thing is important to a lot of families. And so they came and had supper, and then we had a visit from the Cat in the Hat, you can see there. We celebrated Dr. Seuss's birthday, but we celebrated everybody's birthday. So as they went around the gym and did some of these different activities, you can see in the top picture people behind myself and my superintendent, who is very much a supporter of our program. You can see the families going around. Like one group had a movement center. So the kids went back there and did movement activities that went with the book about moving your body. Somebody else did one about the sea, and they made a mural of all the different fish and items that are in the sea. So that was all the way around the gym. And then what we did in the very front before they left was we focused on the question asking. And so I took the old books that had been destroyed from Raising a Reader bags, And I pulled them apart and I slapped some of those pages up on the wall, and the families got a chance to go to each one and ask a question. So they would write a who, what, where, when, why question next to those pictures. So we kind of got them involved in doing that question asking in that way. So that's the two that we do during the year. And then I don't think I got to send a slide for this one, but for our blue bag, I was just going to try and show today that what we do is we go to the library typically, and I'm hoping you can see this because I don't see myself. So if you can't, let me know. But we have a checklist that the parents actually go through, and the different things that they need to do while they're at the library. So everybody gets one of these when they come in. Our librarians are great to do a scavenger hunt around our library. The initial picture that you saw of me, I'm always in my red bag costume and running around like a goofy woman. And then we always go to an area and have them do a make and take. One year we did a Counting Flowers book that they had to put together and make. For the last 2 years, we have put together, and I can't find my copy, but I just wanted to show you and talk about it. We've put together my word book. And what the kids did with this was to just have white paper inside of this cover. And they got to go to a table and take the stamped pads and the stamps. And actually, so if they stamped a tree on there, then they had to tell their parents a descriptive word for that stamp that they just put on there. So they maybe wrote green out in the margin. Or if they did a cupcake, maybe they put on there yummy. And so what they do then every year is they either bring these books back to the Blue Bag celebration, or they will make another one. And we're trying to increase those descriptive words and vocabulary through this with our workshop that we do for parents, and just show them how simply they can teach their children new words and how to describe things in different ways. So those are the ways that we pretty much engage our families. We have a lot of great families that come out for almost all of these activities. We really work hard because there's multiple kids in the program in different grades to do something where they can all come together and just celebrate what they're doing literacy wise in our community. And we're really excited about having Raising a Reader be a part of that.
Thanks so much, Deb. I love these ideas. I love the birthday bash. That's awesome. And then the brain tips with the bingo. Kids are involved, families are listening. Perfect.
Well, and I probably should tell you, because you mentioned the onesie. We did get t-shirts and onesies for all of our kids when they go to the Blue Bag.
That's
so
awesome.
That's how we see them.
I love that. Love it, Deb. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right, so finally, we're also going to hear from Laura. Laura is the early childhood literacy coach in Talbot County Public Schools here in Maryland. And so, Laura, you can unmute, and then you'll have to tell me when to advance your slides.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. So I'm Laura. Angela, I grew up in Beaufort County, which is really near the counties where you work. And my parents still live there, so we go back and forth a lot. So Talbot County is, so I'm a literacy coach for our county. I have taught pre-K and kindergarten. So I've utilized Raising a Reader as a teacher. I have 2 little ones that are going through the Raising a Reader program, one that just graduated last year and one that's beginning to bring home those red bags in pre-K. So Talbot County is on the eastern shore of Maryland, so it is very rural as well. We have 5 elementary schools, so I serve around 600 students with our Raising a Reader program in our pre-3 classes, pre-K classes, and our kindergarten classes. All of our accredited child care centers that are attached to each school also participate in Raising a Reader. And so we are also trying to begin to implement our programs and our family engagement activities together to support both of those. A lot of staff turnover within our child care centers, so it's helpful to partner together. So at the beginning of the past 2 years, at the beginning of every year, we survey each family, asking them what type of events they are interested in, what support they might need. We also ask them what times they're available after school, before school, during school. We ask them a lot of, just general information to gather to help us with our family engagement throughout the year. The QR code is a sample survey, so you can scan that if you would like, and you can see some of the questions that we ask. And then based on those questions, we try to plan family engagement to support our families and what they need and meeting them where they are. I think you can turn the slide, Rebecca. So we usually host around 3 Raising a Reader events outside of school every year. We usually do our kickoff events every October, which we just recently had. And then we try to do a January, February event where we invite families back in to participate in Raising a Reader sort of activities. And then all of our pre-K classes travel to our local library, which is an amazing partnership that we have, and they participate in their Blue Bag ceremony in May. And that's all of our pre-K classes. So for our family engagement events, based on the surveys, we try to incorporate multiple domains within our events. So we've had events around language and literacy, mathematics, STEAM or STEM. Our most recent one was around physical well-being and health. And we incorporated some SEL activities within that because that seems to be a hot topic with our families. And then we also have done a related arts night where, similar to what Rebecca said, partner with some of our school events that are already happening and trying to meet families during those events to promote Raising a Reader as well. And during our kickoff events, we always, in the picture that you see, we are going over the Raising a Reader program and what that would look like throughout the school year. So that's always a must for our kickoff events to explain that to our families at the beginning of each year. And then here are some photos of a lot of our events that we've had. Some of them, the one at the top left, one of our families, our schools really, the administrators really want us to do morning events. So we invite families in before school, so around 7:45 to 8:25. We try to meet them before they drop off for school. So we did a donut morning where they came in and had donuts and pastries and juice and coffee. And then we did literacy activities around that. The book was If You Give a Dog a Donut. So just some different activities around that, and they participate in rotations typically. We find that that is what works best for our families. So we usually have 3 to 4 rotations that our families can participate in, and we just set a timer and rotate through within the time that we have. Most of our events last around an hour. The one in the morning is a little bit shorter, but we do try to rotate through different activities. There's, the one on I think it's, hopefully it's your right, a little boy walking around doing a little letter hunt, getting that movement in. There's some yoga that was recently in our kickoff events, trying to bring that mindfulness into our activities as well. And then a lot of math and literacy events. Here are some just examples of our flyers. We try to promote our events as much as we can. Like many of the presenters that have shared, after COVID, it was really hard to get families to come back in. So promoting that, coming into school, breaking, those trends of, the disengagement, and being hesitant to come into a school building. But we try to reach families where they are and, We send home paper copy flyers. We send them home with Remind, which is a text messaging service that we use countywide. We use school messaging, which is all of our administrators have access to. So we ask our administrators to send out reminders, and they can link the surveys and the flyers into these. We usually have QR codes where they can RSVP. We also have attachments at the bottom where they can just cut off the bottom portion, return it back to school, however it's easiest for them and their family. All of our classroom teachers send home newsletters, so they also are encouraged to promote that each week within their newsletter. Our superintendent does a weekly update as well, and she incorporates those within her information that's going home to families. It's on Facebook. We just are trying to meet them where they are, no matter what they are, where they are, but just posting it hopefully somewhere where they're looking. But these are some examples of flyers. And then through our family engagement events, to promote family engagement and to bring them into our activities that we're hosting, we try to have something tangible that they're leaving with. We have been very fortunate that we've had some funding through COVID. Some of that funding is beginning to subside. So we're going to have to think, critically about like how we're bringing those families in. But dinner's huge, food. One of our schools, we just did in October a vegetable box that they got to send home with, and we partnered with our community school leader. So they had a huge box of cabbage, plantains, and it was like a multicultural box to hit a lot of our Spanish-speaking families, which was amazing. We also have gotten to the point where some of our schools have Judy Centers, which are a huge funding source as well. So partnering with the Judy Center as well, they provide books and resources. A lot of the things that I try to create for the families, I can print locally, and I'm able to laminate those for our families as well. So they're taking home something that they can use at home, whether it's a resource or a book or a learning material game that they can use at home. And then when families are brought in for our engagement events, we have, like I said, we usually try to do rotations. So here are some examples of what our schedule for the event might look like. We've had STEM nights where they're creating STEM activities. So that's the middle one. The most recent events that we had for our kickoffs this year. One of the examples is on the left. And then we also, the past 2 years, have been trying to get feedback from families after each event as well. So just trying to see where they are, what else they need help with, how else we can support them moving forward with the winter events. And then in May of each year, all of our pre-K students travel to our local library, and they participate in our Blue Bag ceremony, which we have great partnerships with our library. We have also hosted events at our library other than our Raising a Reader Blue Bag ceremonies, but we have costumes. Our librarian, she also wears the red bag, so you'll see me here in the blue bags for the Blue Bag ceremony, but she wears the red bag. And I think, yes, she's right down on the bottom floor checking out a book with a student. But they participate in story time, so families are encouraged to attend. This is a during school event, so families will meet us at the library, but they see an example of a story time, finger plays, songs, dances. They participate in their Blue Bag ceremony, and then they get to check out a library book with their library card that they will receive in their Blue Bag. So all of our pre-K students, at the beginning of each year, we send home their local library card application, and they fill it out. And then throughout the year, we work to get them their library card, and that's when they receive their library card. Our superintendent also tries to participate and read. We usually do Lola at the library, which is what is also inside their Blue Bag. And we also try to have interpreters and translators for all of our events, interpreters visiting with us for each event, helping read the story in Spanish, but also all of our documentation, everything that we send home is also translated in Spanish. And then to meet also, outside of our local events and what we do through Raising a Reader, we also try to partner with some of the other things that the schools already are scheduled, like scheduled events that they're already working on. And I usually have like a table set up where they can get a book and we can just a quick little, literacy fact. We do a story walk where we have a story put up on big poster board and they're on little stakes and they can stick into the ground and families can walk through. I was able to be there for one event, and so I walked through with a few families, which is one of the pictures at the bottom. And then this year we have partnered with our library to host a scavenger hunt for all families that are participating in Raising a Reader. And that has been throughout the whole month of November. And once they go to the library, they participate in the scavenger hunt, they check out a book, they also will earn a prize with their family. And then we also have our famous red bags and blue bags that we wear. Our supervisor, her mom created these a few years ago, and we continue to use those, which is fun. And I think that's it. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share any of the information that or resources that we've created. I know the more we work together, the better we are. So I'm happy to share anything.
Laura, thank you so much. Just huge thank you to Angela and Deb and Laura. And these were just, I've got so many tips written down that I can't wait to add to our virtual coordinator training. So this was just phenomenal. Does anyone have any, I realize it is past the hour. So if you have to go, go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to keep recording. Does anyone have any questions for Deb or Angela or Laura? A lot of kudos in the chats for all of you. Okay. All right. Well, if you're thinking about it, you can still put it in the chat, but just a couple of Raising Reader resources I just didn't want you to forget is, our online affiliate network. So we have all of the 2024 Town Hall decks and trainings because we've been talking about family engagement for off and on since at least July. We've had about 3 different webinars that have featured some of these. So some of these tips. So accessing those, there are several different workshop series. And again, the workshop series are like actual workshops, but take ideas. I love how Deb took the brain development idea of bingo and like she, is running with that because part of a workshop's about brain development. Adding the pop-up things, these bite-sized information is great. And not forgetting that there's a home visiting curriculum, a toddler curriculum, 0 to 3 handbook. The YouTube page, if you are sending out bite-sized media, use our YouTube page and send home a video. Hey, this is how you can do a picture walk. Try it with your kids this week. See how they like it. There's also family literacy calendars on the online affiliate network, and you'll find them on social media as well. So lots of resources to help you along the way. And yeah, so I realize it is past 3 o'clock, but we are Raising Reader staff are here to stay on if you have any questions. Thank you again to our amazing presenters, and I just can't thank you enough for sharing all of this information today. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Our next town hall will be on December 20th, and we'll be talking social media and branding. So a lot of these things are going to be talked about next month too. So thank you all. Take good care. Happy Thanksgiving.